Each of these men once held the highest power in the United States, shaping wars, peace, and the destiny of millions. But no matter how great their influence, every one of them met the same quiet end. From marble tombs to humble resting places, these are the final homes of America's presidents, and the stories they took with them to the grave. Jimmy Carter, 1924-2024. Jimmy Carter will be laid to rest beside his wife Rosalind in Plains, Georgia, the small hometown they both cherished all their lives. Their modest graves symbolize humility and devotion. George H.W. Bush, 1924-2018, buried at the George Bush Presidential Library in Texas, next to his beloved wife Barbara and their daughter Robin, who died as a child. A family reunited in peace. Gerald Ford, 1913-2006. Gerald Ford rests on a quiet hillside at his presidential museum in Grand Rapids, Michigan, overlooking the river where he once played as a boy. Ronald Reagan, 1911-2004. Reagan's tomb lies at his presidential library in Simi Valley, California, facing the sunset over the Pacific, a symbol of his shining city on a hill. Richard Nixon, 1913-1994. Nixon is buried beside his wife Pat in his birthplace garden in Yorba Linda, California, only a few steps from the small house where he was born. Lyndon B. Johnson, 1908-1973. Johnson rests in the family cemetery on his Texas ranch beneath massive oak trees. His grave faces the Pedernales River, his favorite place on earth. Harry S. Truman, 1884-1972. Truman is buried with his wife Bess at his presidential library in Independence, Missouri. Visitors still leave coins on his grave for good luck from Harry. Dwight D. Eisenhower, 1890-1969. Eisenhower rests in a simple black marble tomb in Abilene, Kansas, the same town where his life began. He lies beside his wife Mamie and their young son. John F. Kennedy, 1917-1963. Kennedy's eternal flame burns at Arlington National Cemetery, overlooking Washington, D.C. His brothers Robert and Ted rest nearby, creating a family circle of honor. Franklin D. Roosevelt, 1882-1945. Roosevelt is buried in the Rose Garden of his Hyde Park estate in New York, next to Eleanor. The graves are plain, just their names carved in stone. Herbert Hoover, 1874-1964. Hoover lies with his wife Lou in West Branch, Iowa, at the site of his childhood home, a reminder of humble beginnings after a life of global influence. Calvin Coolidge, 1872-1933. Coolidge's grave in Plymouth Notch, Vermont, is marked by a simple headstone among generations of his family. He rests just steps from the farmhouse where he was born. Warren G. Harding, 1865-1923. Harding's tomb in Marion, Ohio, is an open rotunda of white marble, built with public donations after his sudden death on tour. Woodrow Wilson, 1856-1924. Wilson is the only U.S. president buried in Washington, D.C. His sarcophagus rests inside the National Cathedral, lit by colorful stained glass. William Howard Taft, 1857-1930. Taft is buried at Arlington National Cemetery, one of only 2 presidents there. He rests beside his wife Helen, beneath towering maple trees. Theodore Roosevelt, 1858-1919. Buried on a quiet hill in Oyster Bay, New York, overlooking the sea he loved. His grave is unguarded and modest, just as he wished. William McKinley, 1843 to 1901. McKinley's Grand Memorial in Canton, Ohio, holds both him and his wife, Ida. The domed tomb stands as a monument to the last president of the 19th century. Grover Cleveland, 1837-1908. Cleveland lies in Princeton Cemetery, New Jersey, beside his wife Frances and daughter Ruth, the inspiration for Baby Ruth Candy. Benjamin Harrison, 1833-1901. Buried in Indianapolis with both his wives, Caroline and Mary, an unusual resting arrangement that reflects a life touched by loss and devotion. Chester A. Arthur, 1829 to 1886. Arthur's elaborate granite tomb in Albany, New York, is crowned with an angel. It was designed by the same sculptor who made Lincoln's memorial statue. James A. Garfield, 1831 to 1881. Garfield's tomb in Cleveland is one of the most ornate, a massive tower with stained glass and a bronze statue beneath the dome. Rutherford B. Hayes, 1822-1893. Hayes rests at his estate, Spiegel Grove, in Ohio, among towering oaks and his war-era comrades. His tomb was later surrounded by his presidential library. Ulysses S. Grant, 1822-1885. Grant's tomb in New York City is the largest mausoleum in North America. He and his wife Julia rest side by side beneath marble arches. Andrew Johnson, 1808-1875. Johnson's grave in Greenville, Tennessee, is topped with the U.S. Constitution. His personal request, a statement of loyalty after a divisive presidency. Abraham Lincoln, 1809 to 1865. Lincoln's towering tomb in Springfield, Illinois, holds his remains, wife, and 3 sons. His coffin was moved 17 times before being sealed permanently in steel. James Buchanan, 1791 to 1868. Buchanan lies in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. His epitaph defends his presidency, conscious of no wrong, intent upon right. Franklin Pierce, 1804-1869. Pierce rests quietly in Concord, New Hampshire, beside his wife Jane and their 3 sons, all of whom died young. Millard Fillmore, 1800-1874. Fillmore's grave in Buffalo, New York, is simple and often overlooked. Locals honor him every year on his birthday with flowers and flags. Zachary Taylor, 1784 to 1850. Taylor's tomb in Louisville, Kentucky, became a national cemetery. His remains were once exhumed for testing due to poisoning rumors, all disproven. James K. Polk, 1795 to 1849. Polk's grave stands beside his wife Sarah at the Tennessee State Capitol, though it's been moved twice since his death. John Tyler, 1790-1862. Tyler rests in Richmond, Virginia, in a section reserved for Confederate leaders, making him the only president buried under a foreign flag at his death. William Henry Harrison, 1773-1841. Harrison's tomb in North Bend, Ohio, overlooks the river valley. His grandson, President Benjamin Harrison, is buried just miles away. Martin Van Buren, 1782-1862. Van Buren lies in Kinderhook, New York, beside his wife Hannah. His grave bears his nickname, Old Kinderhook, origin of the word okay. Andrew Jackson, 1767-1845. Jackson is buried beside his wife Rachel at their plantation, the Hermitage, under magnolia trees she planted herself. John Quincy Adams, 1767-1848. Adams rests with his wife Louisa, father John Adams, and mother Abigail inside a church crypt in Quincy, Massachusetts, the only family of 2 presidents buried together. James Monroe, 1758 to 1831, Monroe's ornate Gothic cage tomb stands in Richmond, Virginia. It was moved there decades after his death in New York. James Madison, 1751-1836. Madison is buried at Montpelier, Virginia, beside his wife Dolly, who joined him 13 years later after her own long, troubled life. Thomas Jefferson, 1743-1826. Jefferson designed his own tombstone at Monticello, choosing not to mention the presidency. Only his authorship of the Declaration and founding of the University of Virginia. John Adams, 1735-1826. Adams rests beside his wife Abigail in Quincy, Massachusetts, just feet from their son, John Quincy Adams. Both died on the 4th of July. George Washington, 1732-1799. Washington lies in a brick tomb at Mount Vernon, Virginia, beside Martha. The site is guarded day and night, America's first and eternal resting president.